Can a 7 times world champion feel totally lost in your new team? How is it possible that Hamilton, with all his experience and talent, is living his worst season in Formula One? Today we are going to unravel not only the data, the confessions of a pilot who, for the first time, has said to feel completely disconnected from his car. From the first Grand Prix, Hamilton has ceased to be the confident and calculator pilot who marked the rhythm since Friday. The SF25, the car with which Ferrari hoped to make the final leap, has turned out to be an unpredictable and demanding machine, especially in the race. In classification he has had respectable moments, but at the time of playing the races, Hamilton simply fails to find control sensations. He has come to declare that there is not a single positive aspect in the behavior of the car, a very hard judgment if it comes from the most successful pilot in the modern history of F1. For him, it is not just about speed or results. The problem is that he does not feel any connection with his work tool. Each curve is a question, each braking a bet, each acceleration a risk. In countries like Saudi Arabia or Spain, frustration became contained rabies. In Jeddah, he described his career as horrible. In Montmello, his despair was even more evident. He described the experience as the worst career I have had in terms of balance. The message was clear, resounding, without nuances. Lewis, an expert in analyzing performance and transmitting sensations to the team, was completely disconnected from SF25. The car not only did not adapt to its style, but directly rejected it, making it slide through the asphalt without being able to control the behavior or degradation of the tires. This process has been even more bitter for the inevitable comparison with his teammate Charles Leclerc. While Monegasco manages to scratch decent results, Hamilton seems to be left behind, battling with a machine that reacts differently back after return. In circuits where tire management is key, the difference is accentuated. Hamilton degrades faster, loses traction before, and is forced to defend itself with nails and teeth instead of attacking. It is a role that is not accustomed to interpreting, and that is reflected in your body language, in its post-career statements, and above all, in its lack of confidence within the cabin. More than a bad streak, what we are witnessing is a total disconnection between an elite pilot and its technical environment. Lewis Hamilton arrived in Ferrari with a promise in mind: return to the rampant Cavallino to glory. But instead, an invisible wall of technical difficulties, ineffective strategies, and an organizational culture that seems not to speak its same language has been found. What should be a celebration of his legacy is beginning to become a silent fight, where every weekend it is a painful reminder that even the largest can also fall. The crisis that Lewis Hamilton faces in Ferrari cannot be explained only from a technical perspective. Yes, SF25 is a difficult, inconsistent car, and with aerodynamic behavior that leaves more doubts than certainties. But what is really leading to the 7-time world champion to the limit is the internal structure that has found in the Maranello team. In a team as legendary as Ferrari, where history weighs more than recent results, Hamilton has discovered an organizational environment with obsolete processes, erratic decisions, and an internal culture that seems to be in permanent conflict between the glorious past and the demand for a competitive future. In Canada, one of the most enigmatic statements of the year showed what really happens behind the walls of the red team. Hamilton said, with a clearly content tone, that there are many things that I would like to count on what is happening within the organization, but could not reveal them. This phrase is not accidental. It is a veiled cry, a warning. Hamilton is limited by contracts, confidentiality, and diplomacy, but his words suggest that what he is facing is not only a lack of mechanical performance, but a toxic and chaotic environment that sabote any attempt of sustained progress. The most alarming thing is that Hamilton has been one of the few pilots in recent history in having the value of publicly pointing out the need for a restructuring in Ferrari. It has made it clear that the problem is not only the car but the system that surrounds it. This implies key areas such as the development department, strategic decision-making during the race weekends, communication between engineers, and even the way in which aerodynamic updates are implemented. Ferrari, under the direction of Frédéric Vasseur, had promised a new era of efficiency and operational clarity. However, internal reality seems very different from what is presented in official communications. Hamilton, accustomed to Mercedes' surgical precision during his years of glory, is now with a team where improvements do not arrive on time, decisions are too discussed, and errors are repeated career after a career without clear consequences. Instead of an agile and adaptable system, Ferrari is offering him a bureaucratic, slow, and often disconnected machinery from the pilot's direct feedback. The British has publicly requested improvements, but has also demanded a cultural transformation, a change in the mentality and internal hierarchies that currently prioritize domestic policy above the effectiveness on the track. It is especially symbolic that, in this context, their efforts to improve the car are being received with slowness or resistance. It is not the first time that a world-class pilot collides with Ferrari's inflexible structure, but that occurs with Hamilton, a pilot who has proven to be a key piece in the technical development of his previous teams, is a worrying sign. His experience, his precision to detect problems, and his ability to lead technical projects are active that any team would value as pure gold. And yet, in Ferrari, those contributions are being underutilized. This raises a disturbing question. Is Ferrari really ready to change? Because if it is not, then the arrival of Hamilton runs the risk of becoming a note of frustration within a story loaded with potential. For a pilot who has built his legacy based on control, discipline, and constant evolution, face a structure that does not respond to these principles can be not only frustrating, but devastating at emotional and professional level. Hamilton is not only fighting the stopwatch, but against a way of doing things that, in many ways, has no place in the modern Formula One. Despite all the accumulated frustration in the first races, there was a time that seemed to offer a break. In the China Grand Prix, within the framework of the sprint classification, Hamilton showed a genuine talent flash that has made him a legend. That day was not just a good round, it was a statement. It was the first time in months where one seemed to feel with the car. The cameras captured him with an unwavering determination, attacking the vertices with millimeter precision, pushing each curve with confidence, risking the fair and making the maximum of the SF25 in conditions where the slightest error would have left it out. That moment, that almost perfect return, was an emotional reconnection with his own essence as a pilot. But that performance was ephemeral, because what followed later was not a continuity of success, but an abrupt return to reality. In the race, the lack of rhythm demonstrated again. The difficulties with the balance, the early degradation of the tires, and the debatable strategic decisions of the Ferrari wall opacacted any hope of immediate redemption. This is what defines the brutal contrast that Hamilton is living, between sparks of brilliance and a consistency that does not arrive. Hope appears at times, but is quickly eclipsed by the same structural and technical errors that have marked this unfortunate season start. That constant dichotomy between what can be and what it really is represents the true drama of its season. Hamilton arrived in Ferrari with the intention of rewriting the story. He didn't come just running, he came to build a legacy, to return to the most iconic motor racing the status he once had. But now he is caught in an internal struggle, to continue believing that it is possible to change fate, in the face of the daily evidence that the system is not ready to follow it. The most complex thing is that these types of situations were even the greatest. It is not just about results. It is day-to-day, the factory work, the relationship with the engineers, the environment in the briefings, the constant feeling of rowing countercurrent without knowing if there is a shore on the other side. Hamilton is not questioning his talent. He knows that he is still one of the best. What doubts is if Ferrari, as a structure, is really willing to evolve to the rhythm he needs. The British pilot has proven many times that he is able to adapt, to reinvent himself, to overcome technical and personal adversities. But for that capacity to flourish, it needs an environment that accompanies. A team that answers, to listen, to execute. And in this 2025, that is not happening. Therefore, each race becomes a currency in the air. In a struggle between hope, which is embodied in each weekend of Grand Prix where everything could change, and a hard reality, which continues to repeat a pattern of stagnation. At this point of the season, the question is no longer whether Hamilton can win a race. The true issue is whether Ferrari's vicious circle can break before war is overcome. Because time, even for the great champions, does not forgive. And although talent is intact, the environment remains the most severe judge in Formula One. At this point, Lewis Hamilton's story in Ferrari is no longer defined only by chronometers or the classification of builders. It is a deeply human story that is debated between the internal conviction of a pilot who refuses to surrender and the institutional structure of a team that seems stagnant in its own limitations. What began as a historical alliance, with the promise of breaking schemes and returning the glory to Maranello, has evolved in just a few weeks in a sports drama that exceeds the technical and installed in the psychological, the structural and the emotional. Therefore, now more than ever, there is a question that charges irrelevance. Can Lewis Hamilton, at 40, with all its baggage and experience, reverse this scenario before the season finishes consuming it? Or are we, perhaps without realizing it, witnessing the beginning of an inevitable outcome, a silent farewell of the fight for the top that has defined it for almost 2 decades?